Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of Danjos' Footballing Corner. I'm Danjos, the host of the, you can't see it, but Street Logic Sports Upper 90 podcast show. Now today, I wanted to, after listening to the Anfield Wrap, one of my favorite podcasts, shout out to the Anfield Wrap, I was listening to lots of interesting conversation regarding the contract situation of Trent Alexander-Arnold, Mohammed Salah, and Virgil Van Dijk. Now, it is quite evident that this summer is not exactly what many fans like myself have been wanting to see. Now, when I say that, it's not necessarily that Liverpool should go out and buy every single footballer because they're a cool team and, you know, they're one of the biggest clubs in the world and they deservedly should be out in the market to get a player like a Moises Caicedo or a Jude Bellingham from previous hunts. No. That's not the case. It's been quite an interesting summer in the sense that Joe Gomez could be leaving. Sepp van der Berg is gone. He signed for Brentford, 25 million plus 5 million in add-ons. Fabio Carvalho, someone who everyone thought was going to be a Coutinho regen, is gone. He's also at Brentford. So it's been interesting. It's been very interesting, but also very stressful. Now, stressful in the sense that this is the year, the first season under Arne Slot, but it is also a year where Trent, Virgil van Dijk, and Mohammed Salah have not signed contract extensions. This is going to be the last year for all of them, by the looks of it. Trent is out partying in Miami, in Spain, with Jude Bellingham over the summer. Those two were kind of linking with each other during the Euros, hanging out in almost every single England camp, video that there was to watch. Virgil van Dijk, I don't think he will leave. I actually think he'll get an extension. I think he'll stay. I think he's very happy to be the captain of the club, and I think that there's a connection there with Arne Slot. And just overall, it's Virg. I don't think he wants to leave. Mohammed Salah, now that's 50-50. Now, is it viable? Does it make sense to keep a player of his caliber? I personally believe you should keep him. He has the longevity of that of a Cristiano Ronaldo in the sense that he takes care of his body and is fit. Yeah, he had a little injury here and there last season, but was absolute quality up until the end of the season. I would personally try and keep all three of them. However, this is something that I was talking about, if anyone read my article on X, on our Twitter page, X page, whatever it's called, that I was talking about how Liverpool is at a crossroads as a club. We've seen recently rumors that FSG were interested in purchasing the Boston Celtics. Now, Boston Chronicle, New York Times reported, I think it was yesterday, that in fact they are not interested in buying them, which we've seen this before with FSG, kind of flirting with NFL or NBA teams. I personally would hope that they buy them because I think that would mean that they would probably sell Liverpool. I think that FSG, their model is sufficient for those who could be as a club caliber as a West Ham United or a Newcastle United. This is a Liverpool Football Club. This team needs to be competing and they need to be purchasing players, especially every single summer, especially when you're competing with the likes of Arsenal and Manchester City. I love FSG. I think that they did great things for the club. They rebranded this. They fixed up the stadium. They made the new stand. They created thousands of jobs for people. But they were also part of the Super League. They were also part of furloughing staff during COVID. These are not, people that you would expect to be up on a high pedestal when you talk about them. I think for as much good as they've done, they've also done some really shoddy things and have not exactly competed in the sense how we expected them to when Jurgen Klopp was at the helm. I wrote in the article that Klopp's reign is something that brought incredible success, but also really hampered on a lot of what-ifs. What could have happened if they had invested that in a certain summer? What could have happened if they had bought said player, maybe a Caicedo if they had spent the money over Chelsea, maybe a Bellingham, etc. So it's 50-50, really. But the issue that I have now with the contract situation is that this is becoming something that is incredibly frustrating. You have potentially the best right back in the game, one of the most gifted footballers that England has ever produced, in Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, to me, that's a no-brainer. He's a local Scouse kid. He came through the academy, has only ever really been coached on the Liverpool side under Klopp, now under Slot. To me, it's a no-brainer. I think that you need to keep him. Virgil van Dijk. Now, is he at the same level that he was at a few years ago? Probably not. But is he someone that you should keep? 100%. Same with Mohammed Salah. These are three pieces to a team that can compete for the next 2-3 years. Now, Trent has the longevity to be probably the best player in Liverpool's history if he does indeed stay. He has the opportunity to surpass a Stevie G, a Kenny Dalglish, etc., etc. So, to me, why are they? What's the point in waiting? You know, now for Trent's sake, I imagine that he is waiting or maybe using the Real Madrid links to kind of enhance his contract negotiations with his agent in the sense of maybe getting more money. Now, do I think he's that person? I don't necessarily think so, but I also do believe that you will do the best for your career financially to really enhance that. Now, I think he will stay. I don't think he will go. However, I think that thought process of mine will change in November. Let's say there still hasn't been concrete links connecting him or saying that he will stay, and Liverpool may be hovering outside the top 4. Then there becomes this conversation of, well, fuck, we probably should have sold him last summer if he did want to leave. And I just think that losing a talent like that is indespicable and would really, 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 really create this massive divide that already exists, I would say, between the fan base and the ownership. Now, I think Van Dijk stays. I don't think he leaves. I actually think that Virgil will probably retire at Liverpool. Now, I think that he's one of the few players that deserves to keep a contract over the age of 30. I know that FSG were kind of nitpicky with that and weren't really huge into giving players over 30 long-term deals. I think Van Dijk should stay. Mohammed Salah should stay as well. I mean, the interesting statistic from the Ipswich game, he scores a goal, which was his 350th goal contribution in 300 appearances for Liverpool. Or 300, wait. Now, I might get that mixed up, but it's one of the two. It's either the appearances are 350 or the goal contributions are 350. Either or, that is absolutely insane. So the guy should stay. And not just that, but the summer has been a complete failure, I would say, for the incomings. Zubimendi decides that he likes mountains more than actually playing for a team that could compete for something. He decides to stay. And honestly, props to him. There's nothing wrong with staying, and I actually admire that he decided to stay with his football team. And I think that is something that is absolutely lacking in modern sports. So props to him. I wish him well for the best of his career. But then you have links of Vandenberg is gone, but then you have Gomez leaving. But you haven't brought in anybody. And then there's links to Kvaratskhelia, but you literally only have 3 center halves. So what is the logic and the thought process for Michael Edwards and co, Richard Hughes? I don't know. I think that they left it too late. Again, I understand the whole perception that, you know, Slot wants to work with the players, understand the squad, figure out who's worth keeping, who's worth, you know, and we've seen that with Endo. Endo was absolutely terrible during preseason. But then you have players that I really would love to see in the squad, as a Stefan Bajcetic. Why is he not staying? I mean, apparently, from what I read, he was actually added to that Zubimendi deal at one stage, which to me is mind-boggling. The fact that this team has to sell their young talent to get players at the correct age group to compete for something is mind-boggling. Keep the talent, develop them, loan them, don't sell them. Don't add them to deals. Now, Joe Gomez, I understand if he was indeed added to the deal with Gordon, that makes sense because Gomez is 26. He probably wants to play more first-team football, and by all means, I think he deservedly should go, but not yet because there hasn't been no replacement. There has been if anything, I think he's going to have to stay for the rest of the season, because you cannot go into a Premier League season where you also are competing in Champions League football with 3 centre halves. That's just not how it works, unfortunately. You need objectively 5. You need 5, 3, one world-class centre half, 2 very, very good ones to partner that one. The 4th one is like really solid, can step in when he needs to. And the 5th is like, okay, you're like the last resort. But there is no solid and last resort. It's world-class, good, and then there's nothing in between. That is not exactly the best thing to do. But looking at the last week of the transfer window, I think that there needs to be some serious business conducted. I think Liverpool, again, I've said this multiple times, are 2 players away from really, really challenging Arsenal and Manchester City. I think this is probably, in terms of youth, one of the most exciting squads that I've seen as a Liverpool fan in the last 15 years. Seriously, there is so much variations of talent in this squad. Whether you are in the camp of thinking that Gravenberch can be molded into a 6, or that maybe there isn't enough legs in the midfield, which I agree and disagree with that point. Is there, right wing cover for Salah? Probably not. We should probably go invest in that. Are we in need, potentially, if he does leave, of another right back? What about the left back situation? Is Jimmy Cuss good enough, and is Robertson, how much longer does he have to be a first team starter? So these are all important questions. And if Liverpool are selling to build that war chest that we've heard for the last 5 years, where's the Caicedo money? How is it possible last summer we were able to almost spend £100 million on a central defensive midfielder, but then that money just somehow kind of just dissipates like that? That to me doesn't make any sense, because that was the money that was left over, objectively, after all of the midfield signings that they had. That to me doesn't make any sense. FSG really need to figure out and be fair to the fans here and understand there's a balance of running a business. Of course, it's good to sell assets. It's good to increase the revenue of what you own and make it something worthwhile over time. I get that. But you also need to objectively understand that this is the biggest team in England, the most successful team in England, now at a pedestal with the likes, in terms of world popularity, with the likes of Real Madrid, Barcelona, Manchester United, Man City, I guess you could throw in there now. But it's like they're up there with the best teams in Europe, the best teams in the world. You need to strengthen. There needs to be a plan here. You cannot wait until the last week of the summer, and now these links with Kvaratskhelia. Do I think that's going to happen? Fuck no, it's not. There's no way that they're going to go, and I hope I'm wrong, but there's no way that they're going to go and sign someone for 75 million. That's objectively what he'll cost. We don't really need a forward right now. Like, what do we... It just doesn't feel like there's a long-term plan here, or there was a plan. It just feels very gun-ho. Now, I understand selling players, your Bobby Clarks, your, Carvalhos, Van den Bergs, etc. That's fine. They made a shit ton of money from that, and that's great. But there needs to be a balance. If you're selling, you need to add, because you're not only are you cutting the squad thin of, potential players that can play when you need them to play, give you those 15 to 20 games a season, you need to use that money objectively quickly, because you only have 7 days left. And as a big club, you will get that big club tax. Like Zubimendi, apparently, his release cost was, 50 million? And I understand that the reason that he didn't want to go was because he didn't want to leave Sociedad, but if this is your number one target, and you might look like a bunch of wankers if you do this, but at least spend over the clause 5 million, 10 million, force it on Sociedad's hand and say, you know what, it's great that you want to stay here, but if you leave, you're also helping out your club, your boyhood club, by giving us this extra 10 million. Where was the urgency to do this? Because this was objectively the only target besides Anthony Gordon that they wanted to make this summer, and they must have rated him quite highly. Why not go to the lengths of that? I understand that you're trying to penny pinch and save every pound, euro, dollar, whatever it is, but you're setting up the guy to fail. You know, if come mid-season you have 4 injuries in midfield, 2 in defense, you know, knock on wood, then what? Then you look back at the summer. Because the last thing that anyone wants to hear is come December or November, when the games come at you thick and fast, Slot goes to a press conference 6 games out of the 10 in that 3-day stretch. You know, every 3 days there's a game. And he says, you know what, maybe we should have been a little more proactive in the market. Well, no shit, you should have been more proactive in the market. Everyone around you is saying that. I don't buy it for 1 second that there's not another option out there to increase, you know, whether that's the competitiveness of the squad or adding a needed piece to midfield or defense. I don't buy that one bit. Now, I'll give you 2 players that I think would be very good additions to this team that are not really in the quote-unquote limelight that you see on X or Twitter or YouTube, whatever. Personally, a player, and I'm not just saying this because I'm Serbian, but one player that I would absolutely love, and I think if anyone has the time, look at his highlights against Manchester United. He was excellent. And a lot of people were complaining about Paulinho leaving Fulham. But Sasha Lukic looks like a real quality footballer. He's about 6 foot, 6'1", very crafty on the ball, reads the game well, not afraid of a tackle. He's kind of like the perfect mix of, let's say, if you took a Paulinho in that destroyer role and you took McAllister with someone that was really good on the ball and you kind of mash that together. Lukic would be brilliant. I don't know how much he is. I have not looked at his transfer market cost, but I think he would be brilliant. Another player that I would personally, I don't want to say love, but given that what we saw from the Euros and how he played for England, again, I don't think he's worth the money that they want, but Mark Gahey is a quality player. Now, I don't think he is better than Joe Gomez, personally, but if Gomez wants to leave, I think that Gahey would be a very good addition to this team. It fits the home quota, whatever, for English players in a squad. He would be great. I was also big on another player that many people have not heard of, Jaka Biol, who played for Slovenia in the Euros. I thought he was excellent. He could play on the left side or the right side. Very good with ambidextrous with his feet. Was a very good player. Plays for Udinese. He's valued at like 15 million euros. Like, it's there. Now, and I understand that, you know, the FSG and the model that was created by Michael Edwards is really based upon, we have a set target. If we can get him, great. And if not, we'll make amends with that. That is all well said. That's all great and whatever, but they really need to bring in a 6, and they really need to bring in a center half. Objectively, a left-sided center half. They could play maybe left back if you need them to. If you get those 2 positions, this is a much different conversation, a much different team. Because I think from what we've seen from Slot, granted it's preseason, but the guy is ruthless. You know, Kwanzaa has a really bad first half, loses a lot of duels. Slot goes in at halftime, says, you're out. Brings in Konate, who was excellent the second half. It was literal night and day difference. This guy is capable of adapting. He just needs to be backed. And I just don't want there to be this reoccurring theme with FSG and Liverpool where you have a very talented manager who obviously has, objectively, again, I know this is just from me watching videos on YouTube. I have not been to a training session. I have not been able to see them play live, in a ground. But judging from what I've read, judging from what I've seen, judging from what I've heard, from what I've researched, this guy's the real deal. And it would be a damn shame if you have, I'm not going to say he's going to be like a Klopp manager, but he could be very good. Similar to the mold of that of a Rafa Benitez, with a little more of a likable character who wants the X's and O's and all the ins and outs of every single principle of the state of play. It's a less emotional football to watch, which actually I kind of enjoy. It is controlling, like the way that they control the games once they're up 2-0. It's almost like watching Man City, which might not be the most fun thing to watch, but you know what? When you're in April, May, if they are in a title race and you're up 2-1 and you need that level of control. Last season, we wouldn't have that. Games were far too open, this seems a different level of control. And I think that if he is given the right tools to succeed, especially at the last week of this transfer window, Liverpool could be in for a very special season. And it really depends if FSG are, sorry, my allergies, if FSG are willing to compete, or are these Boston Celtics links, which I actually cover in another video because it's very interesting to think about. Are they willing to compete, give this guy what he needs, and have this team be successful? Or are they going to be penny pinching again? Is Liverpool going to lose 3 generational players that were critical to the success of the last 6-7 years on freeze, mind you, which is criminal? We did it with Mane, or almost with Mane, but it was just terrible. Matip, Thiago, just incompetence at the highest order, to be honest with you, to let these people go for free. Matip I can understand, but Trent, really? Trent? You're going to go for free? Will you give this man what he needs? Rebuild this squad, add the key few additions, because this team is not that far from winning something big. And I don't know what that could be, I don't know. But give the guy what he needs. Let them be successful. Back the boys, back the team, and if the ownership is something that you are hypercritical of, it is also important to be objective and understand what they did, but also it is okay to be critical. And I know that this is a conversation amongst the fans, amongst the fan base that is hypercritical for everybody. I had people block me on X for my views on FSG, but at the same time, if you read the piece, it was not a hit piece. It was, everything they did well, everything they can improve, why this is a crossroads, because for as much good as they did, there are issues that need to be fixed. So that's my view on Liverpool summer. This is the first episode of Danjos' Footballing Corner, even though not in the corner. The corner is actually over there, which needs to be cleaned. If you like this video, please share and subscribe. Like the video. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put in the comment section. We have a Twitter, which is at @STLogicSports. We have an Instagram, and I'll put the link tree in the bio of the Instagram. You have everything there that you will need. But yes, if you have any questions, I will actually do some fan mail. If you have any questions, I'll put them in the next video, and we'll talk about it. So, anyway, thank you very much for listening. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys have a lovely rest of your week, and I will be back at the end of the weekend to recap some of the Premier League scores, some teams that I think. Maybe we'll talk a little about Manchester United, Real Madrid with Mbappe. Who knows? But anyway, thank you, everybody. Have a lovely weekend, and I will see you soon.